They've got the Fed. That's a private corporation, not a government entity, a private corporation. You should see, like Goldman Sachs and everything. Anyway, they can just print more money. Isn't that convenient? That's great. You know, a guy who thought he was out of his mind in 1983 when he said, we've got to audit the Fed. It has taken a long time for the rest of us to catch up to him, but Ron Paul is next.
It's been 30 years in the making. Will Ron Paul finally get what he's after? Will the Fed be audited? Next.
We have Ron Paul, congressman from Texas. Hello, Congressman. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Tell me the latest. You have this bill. You've been trying since 1983 to audit the Fed. Tell me the latest on the audit the Fed bill. Just breaking news.
Last week we got that put into the reform package, which is a very, very complex group of regulations that aren't going to be good for the economy at all. But the good part of the audit bill got put in there. But today we were supposed to be right now in the middle of a 3 hours debate for that bill, and then go into the amendment process tomorrow and finish it up tomorrow. But all of a sudden we went into recess. And they're arguing now in the Rules Committee because some moderate Democrats are saying they're not satisfied with it. There are some Democrats who think they've gone just too far, and they're getting a message from, I guess, some of their people at home.
Good.
And they can win some of these votes if they're brought to the floor. Of course, they wanted to bring this to the floor without any amendments or very few, but now there's a little rebellion going on, and it's very healthy, I believe.
Okay. Congressman, I want to ask you one question. I haven't heard anybody explain this. AIG, the insurance giant, the Treasury gave money, right, to AIG.
Right.
We bailed them out. We think that somehow or another the Fed is funding. So it gave it to AIG. And then what happened was AIG was getting pressure, you got to pay some of this money back. So what they did is they took two companies and sold them to pay this money back that they got back from the Treasury. So they took that money from the sale and they gave it back to the Treasury. But what they sold these two companies to is the Fed. This circle here of money just being flushed in a giant circle seems like I don't know, something you would go to prison for if you tried this in the private sector. What's going on here, Congressman?
Well, shenanigans, and that really makes the point of why we need to audit and find out what the Fed does. Also, some of the banks are paying it back. They don't want any restrictions on salaries and other things. So all of a sudden, they're very rich and they're putting money back. But what they're probably doing is borrowing money through the discount window at less than 1%. And, you know, it's a carry trade. They put their money in a Treasury bill or something else, making 1% or 2% more. And all of a sudden, the banks have regained all those losses. But like you say, they churn this, and it's literally money coming from the Fed, which is indirectly coming from the taxpayer.
When we come back, more with Ron Paul, and I'm going to explain this chart. This should chill you to your core. Next. Back with Congressman Ron Paul of Texas, who is trying to audit the Federal Reserve, which should absolutely be done. They'll come up with all kinds of excuses not to do it. I want to show America this chart here, Congressman. I'm sorry you're at a disadvantage that you can't actually see it, but it's debt trajectories, debt to GDP. Here's Luxembourg. Here is Switzerland, the only one that's going up. New Zealand is coming down. Austria, Germany is here. France is here. But here's the USA. Look at the trajectory on debt to GDP. We're now being talked to about possibly losing our AAA status. I know when I talked to you 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, oh, everybody said that was crazy. We'll never lose it. They said that a year ago, that's crazy. Now it's starting to look more and more like a possibility. What does that mean to the average person?
Well, I think it's very serious, and it means a whole lot that they're willing to admit, which has been, you know, a reality for a long time, because the AAA rating really doesn't mean anything, because nobody really invests in bonds. What individual would buy a 20-year bond so that they have money for their kids in 20 years to send them to college? Nobody does that. So all this rating is a gimmick, and if these gimmicks can be overcome, and even the Moody rating system drops, and that means really, really bad news. That means the dollar's in big trouble. But you know, the whole idea that these bonds are really worth something right now, it's only because the Fed can create credit, make deals with foreign governments and foreign central banks, and push money into banks and say, buy up this debt, keep the interest rates low. It's all a gimmick, and they're raking off the profits. Right. So I'm surprised that the rating hasn't gone down a long time ago.
Let me just say this. If you are supporting audit the Fed, now's the time to call your congressman, because they're talking about it even tonight. I want to talk to you one more thing about the EPA. Yesterday, the EPA came out and said, if you guys don't do something in Congress with cap and trade, we will. Sir, isn't it true that the Constitution, you're in charge? Can't Congress just say, well, then we'll just disband you, or we'll create a law that says you can't do that? Is Congress irrelevant?
Yeah, they are, because all laws are supposed to be written by the Congress, but every regulation written by the administration for 100 years, you know, is illegal and unconstitutional. It just is so blatant. Congress didn't act fast enough, so we'll write the law.
All right.
And, you know, just think of executive orders. Those are laws, too. They're completely unconstitutional.
Keep up the fight. Thank you very much. Right back in a minute.